back the deer skull. This is actually the skull of an extinct species of deer that I found when I was a kid in Illinois, and it really should have been obvious that I'd become a hardcore metalhead, because what kid has a deer skull as their prized possession? As you can see, it's covered in candle wax from various satanic and witchy rituals that I've done using it. I don't believe in any of those. They're just kind of fun. Welcome to Daily Metal, where every day a different metal album gets dissected for your sadistic listening pleasure. I'm the heavy metal lawyer, Emma. And in this show, I'll talk about why the music in these albums is so good and where they fall in the history of music's most wretched genre. On August 26, 2002, Rotting Christ embarked on a twisted, demonic ritual with their album Genesis. You see why I brought back the deer skull? I had to bring back the deer skull. Greek black metal duo Rotting Christ used this album as a return to form, though with some well-used elements from outside black metal mixed in. While the band actually started out as a grindcore band, they quickly shifted to black metal even before their first demo came out, and by their first full-length album, Thy Mighty Contract, the band had fully embraced the black metal genre. However, by their third album, Triarchy of the Lost Lovers, the band started to experiment with gothic influences. And the following album, A Dead Poem, was on the verge of abandoning black metal completely in favor of gothic and folk metal. This drew mixed feelings from the notoriously picky black metal fans. Nowadays, black metal fans have fully embraced folk metal influences in black metal and don't consider it anathema to raw black metal. But in 1997, that was not so much the case, with many fans wanting nothing but raw, aggressive, hostile black metal in its purest form. And to be fair to those fans, A Dead Poem is definitely not a raw-sounding album. It's melodic and polished in addition to incorporating those elements from other genres. And the next few albums for the band continued in this experimentation of being more gothic and folk metal than black metal, until they got to the album Genesis in 2002. I think critics and fans should give bands credit for experimentation, even when it does not necessarily lead to a good album. While the albums with the most experimentation might not sound great, it gives the band an opportunity to see what in that sound works for them and what doesn't, and to get familiar with playing in new styles before trying to incorporate them into their own signature style. Arguably, there could not have been the album Time Waits for No Slaves by Napalm Death without the admittedly bad groove metal album by the band Diatribes. A similar argument could be made that Boris's Akuma no Uta wouldn't be possible without the album Heavy Rocks, and so on and so forth. There are obviously counterexamples to this trend. I don't think there was any benefit to anyone from AFI making their album December Underground. But I would definitely argue that Genesis is an example of a band using their prior album's experimentation to take their signature sound to the next level. Genesis is inarguably aggressive, and while perhaps not raw in the sense of lo-fi recording, it is definitely full of intense, piercing guitars and drums. But at the same time, it retains the best parts of the gothic metal from their recent albums. You hear this from the beginning with the album opener Damon, that features buzzsaw shredding overlaid with gothic choral singing. The whole album mixes these elements effortlessly, peaking with the track Ad Noctis, the 9th track on the 10-track album, which opens with creepy but eerily beautiful chanting before exploding in blast beats. The album manages to be both brutal and heavy, while also being beautiful and, dare I say, spiritual. Rotting Christ chose their band name quite literally. They were not edgelord Satanist black metal, but rather critics of Christianity and the hypocritical leaders of the Christian churches, literally asserting that Jesus Christ was not divine, but was rotting, like we all will when we die. This is why there was a backlash when Megadeth refused to play in Greece if Rotting Christ was on the bill for the show, a move criticized by a lot of musicians who quickly pointed out that Megadeth misunderstood the band's message. As an atheist myself who loves religious music, I'm a sucker for albums like Genesis, which allow me to enjoy the feelings of spiritual ascension without being bombarded by religious dogma. And that would have never been possible if Rotting Christ hadn't made those earlier gothic metal albums. What bands do you think deserve more credit for experimenting with other genres? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, please subscribe so you can find out what the metal album of the day is, why it is so brutal, and where it fits in the history of the genre.